We all have those weak moments. Stress can come in, and everything just feels heavier. Or maybe it's uncertainty, a fog about what's next. Some days, your motivation is just gone. In those times, your willpower feels fragile, like it could break. But what if you could turn that will into iron? There's an old toolkit for that. It's in Stoic wisdom. And it's not just philosophy. It's a set of mental disciplines for building resilience. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius kept a journal. He wrote this to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize that, and you find strength. That's the core idea. So we're going to look at 15 habits. Specific habits to build mental fortitude. We'll see how a morning practice can disarm your worries, and why embracing discomfort is the secret to confidence. These are the Stoic habits for building iron willpower in weak times. They help you see a challenge, not as a threat, but as the material for your own growth. The first Stoic habit is the premeditation of adversity. It's not about expecting the worst, it's about disarming the fear. Our suffering, the Stoics saw, often comes from the shock of being unprepared. Not from the event itself. By rehearsing a setback in your mind, you separate the thing that might happen from your judgment of it. You see the challenge clearly. You decide on your response ahead of time. You remove the element of surprise. That's how you begin to forge willpower. Seneca said we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And that premeditation is the remedy. It softens the blows of fortune, blows that fall with crushing weight on those who are unprepared. Think of a difficult conversation you have tomorrow. Your mind might spin with what could go wrong. This habit asks you to sit with that, but with purpose. Visualize the conversation. See the other person becoming frustrated. Hear the difficult words and then see yourself responding, not with anger, with calm listening, with clear, respectful words. You're not predicting a disaster. You're rehearsing your own composure. Or imagine a key project at work hitting a setback. By considering that possibility today, you're not in scold yourself. It's to see that tiredness is a trigger for you. Tomorrow's plan could be simple. When I feel that tiredness, I'll take one breath before I speak. That's willpower. It's specific, it's something you can do, and it comes from knowing yourself. This nightly check turns random happenings into lessons for your character. Every review, every honest answer is a small act of integrity with yourself. Over time, that consistency is what makes a will unshakable. You start to catch yourself in the moment. You feel the urge to complain, and a quiet voice from last night's review says, choose something else. So tonight, before you sleep, take a few minutes. Look back on your day not as results but as choices. Ask those 3 questions, and when you think about improving tomorrow, pick one virtue. Maybe it's the courage to start a talk you've put off. Or the temperance to walk away from a distraction. Plant that intention like a seed. Your tomorrow will be stronger because of it. Making yourself uncomfortable on purpose might be the key to willpower. That's the third habit, practicing voluntary discomfort. It sounds backwards. In a world built for ease, why choose hardship? The Stoic answer is simple. To prove comfort is a preference, not a necessity. To build a will that doesn't need perfect conditions. This isn't about punishment, it's training. Like a runner pushing their legs, you train your will by gently pushing your limits. The philosopher Musonius Rufus taught that comfort makes the mind soft. Difficulty strengthens it, like a plant growing stronger in the wind. The goal is to separate what's merely pleasant from what's truly good for your character. You learn you can be okay, even more than okay, when things aren't easy. It's a declaration of independence from your own cravings. Start with something small and safe. A cold shower for the last 30 seconds. Walk instead of driving for a short errand. Skip the dessert you usually have. not because it's bad, but to remind yourself you're in command. In that moment of choosing the harder path, you witness your own capacity. You feel the initial resistance, the little voice that says this is unnecessary. And then you act anyway. That action is a tiny victory. It deposits a coin of confidence into your mental treasury. Seneca would practice poverty. He'd dress in rough clothes, sleep on a hard bed, eat plain food for a few days. He wasn't actually poor. He was reminding his soul that his peace didn't come from fine things. He was immunizing himself against the fear of loss. When you voluntarily go without, you disarm the power comfort holds over you. The luxury item you skip isn't the point. The point is the space that opens up. In that space, you find your will, your sense of self, remains intact. It might even feel sharper, clearer, so this week choose one small comfort to forego. It could be that second cup of coffee, the constant background noise of a podcast, the warmth of your bed for 5 extra minutes in the morning. Do it once with full awareness. Notice the subtle shift inside you. That shift is your willpower growing stronger, becoming less brittle, more like iron tempered by heat. You're teaching yourself you can handle more than you think, and that lesson becomes a quiet strength you carry into every unexpected challenge. The fourth habit is the view from above. You look at your life from a distance, like from a mountain or a star. It's a mental shift. You zoom out. You see your current worries against the whole universe, against the long flow of time. The point isn't to feel small, it's to create clarity. It brings a kind of humility. That humility reduces anxiety, the kind that comes from ego. When you see things from that cosmic vantage point, the sharp edges of daily conflict start to soften. You begin to see what really needs your emotional energy and what's just a passing shadow. This habit builds willpower. It teaches you to conserve your strength, to not spend your resolve on battles that, in the grand scheme, don't actually matter. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. In his meditations, he'd tell himself to think of the entire Roman emperor's court, and then to see it as nothing. He'd remind himself that all of human life is brief, a mere point in time. He wrote to keep before your eyes the swiftness of the passing of all things. The cosmos is a river of becoming. Its banks are littered with the remains of things that once seemed so urgent. By contemplating that, he wasn't giving in to pessimism. He was grounding himself in reality. He was freeing his will from the tyranny of the momentary, the petty, the personally insulting. So you take a stress that feels all-consuming. A common one, a work conflict, a disagreement with a colleague that's left you simmering. In the heat of the moment, it feels monumental. Your reputation, your standing, the whole project might seem to hang in the balance. Now you practice the view. Close your eyes, see the room where the argument happened, then pull back, see your building, then your city from above, a grid of lights. Pull back further to the continent, the planet, a blue marble in black space, and then pull back through time. See your own life as a brief, bright line. See the lives of everyone in that room. On that vast scale, where does that single heated exchange sit? It becomes a tiny dot, a brief flicker. This exercise isn't about dismissing your feelings. It's about giving them proper proportion. It asks a calming question. Will this matter in a month, in a year, in 10 years? For nearly all our daily irritations, the answer is a quiet no. That realization doesn't solve the problem, but it drains the panic from it and the pride. It leaves you with just the problem itself, manageable and clear. Your will is no longer tangled in a web of perceived slights. It's freed to act with calm, deliberate focus on what you can actually control. So think of a current worry, something that's been occupying your mind. Hold it lightly and ask that simple, expansive question. In the view from above, in the long story of your life and the immense story of the world, what is its true weight? The answer tells you where to direct your will and where to simply let go. Your first thought is just an impression. It's not a command, it's waiting for your judgment. That's the discipline of assent. It's the fifth habit for building willpower, and it might be the most important one because it happens in that sliver of time. Between something happening and you reacting, that sliver is where your power is. The Stoics had a name for these raw perceptions. They called them impressions. A loud noise is an impression, a critical comment, the feeling of hunger or anger or envy. All of these are impressions. They flood into your mind. But they aren't facts, they aren't commands, they're just data, and you have a choice, a profound one. You can give your assent to that impression. You can buy into its story. Or you can withhold it. You can say, not so fast, let me look at this more clearly. Epictetus put this at the very heart of his teaching. He said it's not things that disturb us. It's our judgments about things, what's up to us, our judgments, our assent. What's not up to us, everything else, the action of another person, a traffic jam, a lost opportunity, those are outside our control. But whether we agree internally with the impression that this is a catastrophe, that is entirely within our power. This is the forge, this is where willpower gets tempered. Every time you pause that automatic assent, you strengthen your capacity to choose your response. You build a buffer between the world and your peace of mind. Think of a common moment. You get an email. It has some critical feedback on a project you worked hard on. The first impression hits. It feels like a punch. Your face gets hot. Your mind races to defend, to justify, to list all the reasons the critic is wrong. That's the impression. It's loud. It's persuasive. The undisciplined will simply assent. It agrees, yes, this is an attack, I am under threat, and from that judgment a reaction flows. Often one you later regret, a snippy reply, a day ruined by resentment. The discipline of assent asks you to catch that impression at the door, to see it for what it is. A piece of data, the words on the screen, nothing more, not yet. You take a breath, you withhold your agreement, you examine it. Is this feedback entirely unfair? Might there be one useful point in here, even if it's poorly delivered? Is the person's intention actually to help, even if their method is blunt? By questioning the impression, you create space. And in that space, your rational mind can now choose a response. You might decide the feedback has merit, and you can learn from it without your self-worth crumbling. You might decide it's baseless, and you can dismiss it without anger. The outcome is no longer dictated by a fleeting feeling. It's chosen by your will. So think back to a recent strong reaction you had. Maybe it was irritation in a long line, or frustration when a plan fell through. What was the initial impression you accepted without question? Was it, this is a waste of my precious time, or this person is deliberately inconsiderate? Just identifying that automatic thought is the first step. It's the first step of the discipline. It's taking back the reins. This habit turns you from a passenger of your emotions into the pilot, and with each practiced pause, your will becomes less reactive, more resilient, more truly your own. Marcus Aurelius had this line, "A blazing fire makes wind and stumbling blocks into its own fuel," and that's the sixth habit. Amor Fati, a love of your fate. It's not passive. It's not just saying, fine, I'll deal with it. It's an active embrace, looking at everything, especially the hard things, and saying yes. This too is for me. This is part of my story, and I'll find the good in it. Nietzsche was inspired by the Stoics here. He said his formula for greatness was Amor Fati. That you want nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not ever, not just to bear what's necessary, but to love it. That mindset forges willpower. Because it ends the internal war. When you stop fighting reality, you unlock energy. Your will isn't spent on resistance, on wishing things were different. It's freed for creation, for action. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this constantly. He said the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every obstacle, every difficult person, every setback was raw material. raw material for virtue, for patience, for courage. Your fate, with all its twists, is the exact curriculum you need. To become who you're meant to be, to love it is to engage with that curriculum. Think of Seneca, exiled to Corsica by the Emperor Claudius, for 8 years removed from Rome, his career. He could have been bitter. Instead, he embraced it. He wrote some of his most profound works there. He studied nature, he reflected. He turned exile into a period of immense production. He didn't just accept his fate, he used it. He loved the opportunity it gave him. In a modern sense, a career pivot forced by a layoff. The first impression is loss, failure. Amor Fati asks you to look deeper. Could this be the necessary push to leave a comfortable but unfulfilling path? Could it be the chance to build something that truly aligns with your skills? The obstacle becomes the catalyst for a more authentic life. This is how you build an iron will, training yourself to see the hidden gift in the hardship. So here's a challenge. Bring to mind one current difficulty, a strained relationship, a financial pressure, a health challenge. Now, instead of asking why is this happening to me, ask a different question. How could this situation be exactly what I need to grow stronger right now? What quality is it demanding of me that I've neglected? That friction with a colleague might be demanding better communication. A financial pinch teaching resourcefulness, teaching clarity about what you truly value. A period of quiet is an invitation to listen to your own thoughts. When you search for the purpose within the problem, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You become a student of it. Your will aligns with reality. And in that alignment, you find a power that feels unbreakable. The Stoics kept a skull on their desk, not to be dark, to be vividly alive. That's the 7th habit, negative visualization. Memento Mori, remember you must die. It sounds stark, but its purpose is the opposite of despair. It's a tool for awakening. It pulls the veil off the ordinary and shows you the extraordinary value of the now. And this is different from premeditating adversity. That was about preparing for specific challenges. This is about contemplating the ultimate limit. The finiteness of everything you hold dear, not to paralyze you, to energize you, to build a will that acts with purpose because it knows time is not a renewable resource. Seneca wrote about this. He said it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough if you know how to use it. He watched people postpone living. They were waiting for the right moment, for retirement, for some future condition. And he warned that life slips away while we are preparing to live. The practice of remembering impermanence cuts through that waiting. It brings a sharp, clarifying focus to your priorities. How does it build willpower? It dissolves the fog of procrastination. When you internalize that today could be the last conversation, the last chance, the last opportunity to act on a dream, the petty distractions lose their grip. Your will aligns with what truly matters. The energy you spent on hesitation gets redirected into decisive action. Think of a simple, daily moment. You're having breakfast with your family. The radio is on. Everyone is a little sleepy. It's routine. Now apply this habit for just a few seconds. Silently acknowledge this scene is temporary. These people you love will not always be here in this exact way. You will not always be here. This isn't a morbid thought. It's a lens that suddenly brings everything into focus. The sound of their voice, the light in the room, the simple fact of their presence, that awareness infuses the ordinary with meaning. It makes you present. It makes you grateful, and from that gratitude comes a stronger will to protect that moment, to put down your phone, to really listen, to choose connection over distraction. Or consider a goal you've been delaying, writing a book, starting a business, mending a relationship. We tell ourselves we'll do it when we have more time, more money, more confidence. Memento Mori asks a gentle question. What if you don't get that more? What if the only time you are guaranteed is this very day? That question isn't meant to scare you into frantic action. It's meant to steady you, to help you distinguish between the truly important and the merely urgent. It gives your will a clear target. So here's a practice. In the middle of something routine, pause, drinking your morning coffee, walking to your car. For just 10 seconds, hold the thought that this too will pass. That this day is a gift you will not receive again. Notice how it changes the quality of your attention. The colors seem brighter, the moment feels more precious. Then carry that clarity forward. Ask yourself, if I were reminded of life's brevity today, what one thing would I stop putting off? It might be a phone call. An apology, the first sentence of that story. Your will, focused by that awareness, has the strength to begin. An iron will need something solid underneath it. The Stoics had a name for that, your inner citadel. It's not a place you can go to, it's a place you build inside your mind, a fortress made out of principles. So when everything outside gets chaotic, you can pull back into it, to find clarity again, to remember what you're oriented toward. This 8th habit is about defining that place for yourself. Knowing without any doubt what you actually stand on, your core virtues. Without that foundation, willpower is just stubbornness. It's force without any direction. But with it, your will becomes a guided force. It lines up with your deepest sense of what's good. Epictetus taught this his whole life. He said the main work of life is just this, to sort things out. To separate matters, so you can say to any outside impression, you're just an impression, you're not the thing you seem to be. Then you look at it. You see if it's about what's in your control or what isn't. And if it's not in your control, you get ready to say, this is nothing to me. What is in your control? Your judgments, your desires, what you move toward. Your aversions, what you move away from, your character, that's your citadel, that's what you have to strengthen. So the habit is this: in quiet moments, you sit down and write out your own philosophy. Not something long and complicated, a simple list. What are my non-negotiable principles? The Stoics offered 4 cardinal virtues as a place to start. Wisdom, navigating complex situations with good judgment. Justice, treating others with fairness, kindness, a sense of community. Courage, which isn't about having no fear, it's about doing the right thing even when you're afraid. And temperance, self-restraint, moderation in all things. These aren't just nice ideas, they're the beams and the stones of your inner stronghold. When you know them, you have a reference point for every choice. A hard conversation turns into a practice of justice and courage. A tempting distraction becomes a test of temperance. An uncertain future becomes a field where you use wisdom. Your will knows where to aim its strength. Here's a practical way to start. Take a blank page, write "my inner citadel" at the top, then list those 4 virtues. But make them your own. For wisdom, you might write, I will seek to understand before I judge. For justice, I will act with fairness even when it's inconvenient. For courage, I will speak my truth with respect, even if my voice shakes. For temperance, I will distinguish between what I want and what I need. That's your personal constitution. Keep it where you can see it, review it every morning. Let it be the first voice you hear before the noise of the world comes in. Now for a reflective prompt. Look back on yesterday. Can you pick 2 virtues from that list that felt most relevant? Maybe courage and justice. Then ask yourself, with gentle honesty, did my actions line up with them? Did I choose the courageous path in that meeting, or did I stay quiet for comfort? Did I act with justice in that small interaction, or did I act from selfishness? This isn't about guilt, it's about calibration. It's checking your compass against the stars. Every time you do that, you reinforce the walls of your citadel. You make that inner reference point more solid, more familiar. So when weak times come, when your energy is low, you don't have to think it all through. You just know your principles tell you what to do. Your willpower finds its purpose, and you stand firm not because you're rigid, but because you're rooted in something true. You're ready to send that angry email. The Stoics would tell you to pause first. That pause is everything. It's the 9th habit, the deliberate pause. It's the physical expression of the discipline of assent. This is where philosophy meets the pavement. Willpower, in so many daily moments, is just the power to pause. To create a buffer between the impulse and the action, and in that buffer you reclaim your freedom. Seneca wrote a lot about anger. He called it a temporary madness. His advice was practical. When you feel anger rising, he said, the first remedy is to give yourself time. Don't try to speak or act until you've repeated the letters of the alphabet to yourself. The point isn't the alphabet, the point is the interruption. You break the automatic chain. You insert a moment of choice where there was only reflex. And that moment is where your character is built. It's where an iron will is exercised. Think about digital communication. The send button is a modern test of Stoic discipline. You type a reactive message, your finger hovers. The pause here is literal. You could walk away for an hour or use a delayed send function. That space allows the heat of the impression to cool. It lets your rational mind, your better judgment, catch up. Often, you return to find the message no longer reflects what you truly want to say. The pause protected you from yourself. It protected your relationships, your reputation. Consumer decisions are another clear arena. The 24-hour rule. See something you intensely want to buy on impulse. Instead of clicking purchase, you pause. You impose a 24-hour waiting period. In that day, the initial craving often fades. You can ask the Stoic question. Is this purchase aligned with my values, or is it just a fleeting desire for comfort or status? The pause gives you clarity. It turns a potential act of weakness into an act of deliberate choice. And in conversations, especially heated ones, the pause is a breath, a literal, deep breath before you speak. It's a silent count to 3. In that brief silence, you are doing profound internal work. You are withholding your assent from the first angry thought. You are creating the space to choose a different, more constructive response. This habit builds willpower because it's a muscle you flex over and over. Each time you succeed, you prove to yourself that you are not a slave to your initial reactions. You are the author of your actions. So here is a commitment to try. In your next moment of irritation, a rude driver, a frustrating notification, a sharp word from someone, commit to a 3-second pause. Do nothing, say nothing. Just breathe and count 1, 2, 3. In that tiny window, ask yourself one question. What would my best self do right now? That simple act is a revolution in self-command. It's the quiet, daily practice that forges a will that can withstand any storm. If your willpower needs other people's approval, it'll always be fragile. It's a chain. It ties your strength to someone else's whim. The 10th habit is about breaking that chain, cultivating indifference to praise and blame from outside. Not to become cold or uncaring, but to put your self-worth in the one place you actually control, your own character. The Stoics had a word for things like reputation, status, what other people think. Adiaphora, indifference. They aren't good or bad in themselves. Their value depends on how you use them, your moral choice, your virtue. That's the only real good. And your vice, the only real evil. Everything else is just material. This habit builds an autonomous will, a will that doesn't sway with every compliment, doesn't crumble with every criticism. It stands firm because it's rooted in an internal compass. Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this constantly. He was emperor, surrounded by flatterers and critics. In his private journal, he wrote a reminder to himself. It takes time for people to praise you, and they might change their minds in an instant. So what's left worth prizing? Only this, to think and act with justice, with kindness, and to speak the truth. That's it. He was telling himself to return always to his own mind, to the quiet courtroom of his own conscience, where the only verdict that mattered was his own judgment of his actions. When you internalize this, you become free. Free from the exhausting roller coaster of seeking validation. Your energy isn't spent managing perceptions anymore. It's channeled into doing good work for its own sake. Think about social media. The design is built on external validation. You post a thought, a photo, an achievement, and then you wait for the likes, the shares, the comments. Your mood can shift, subtly or not, based on that digital applause. The Stoic habit asks you to perform a simple audit. Why did I post that? Was it to share a genuine insight, a moment of joy? Or was it mainly to get a reaction, to be seen as clever, successful, admired? There's nothing wrong with sharing. But when your sense of worth gets hooked to the metrics, your will is no longer your own. It's outsourced. Now contrast that with a quieter act of virtue, helping a colleague without taking credit, choosing honesty where a lie would go unnoticed, finishing a difficult task well, even when no one will see it. The satisfaction from that act is intrinsic. It comes from alignment with your principles. It's a deposit of strength into your inner account, one that no one can devalue. So here's a reflective prompt. Think of a recent action, large or small, that was driven largely by a desire for external validation. Maybe you dressed a certain way for an event, voiced an opinion in a meeting, made a purchase. Look at that action with curiosity, not judgment. Now peel back the layer of seeking approval. What was the core act itself? Was there an element of virtue in it? Courage to speak, generosity to share, creativity to express? Can you separate the act from the craving for praise and appreciate the act for its own merit? This practice begins to rewire your source of satisfaction. You start to feel the solid ground of internal alignment, and you discover a willpower that's truly iron. Because it draws its strength from within, a well that never runs dry. The Stoics had this mental trick. They called it plain description. It's the 11th habit. Seeing things as they are, not as we're afraid they are, not as our pride says they are, just the bare facts. When your mind shouts a judgment, it's like a fog. It covers the path. Plain description is the wind that clears it. That's how you get your perspective back, and perspective is the foundation of a strong will. Marcus Aurelius did this all the time. He'd look at a fancy meal, he'd describe it to himself: dead fish, dead birds, wilted greens. He'd see an emperor's purple robe. He'd think, this is wool, dyed with shellfish blood. He wasn't being cynical. He was peeling away the story, the prestige, the emotional charge to get to the simple thing underneath. The manageable thing. He wrote that we should strip away the legend that encrusts everything. That legend is the narrative we add, the one that says this is terrible, or this is wonderful, or this defines me. The event itself is just an event. Here's how it works in a moment of stress. Your mind delivers a headline. A catastrophic one. This is a disaster. My presentation was a total failure. Now my career is over. That sentence is loaded. It's a judgment, a prediction. An identity crisis all at once. It weakens your resolve. Instantly, it feels true. So your willpower scatters, trying to fight a phantom. Now apply plain description. Strip it back. What are the observable facts? I gave a presentation. The client asked several challenging questions. I did not have all the answers prepared. That's it. That's the territory. The first statement, the catastrophic one, was just a map. A map your fear drew over it, and you were reacting to the map. Not the territory. The territory is something you can actually navigate. You can prepare better answers. You can follow up with an email. You can learn for next time. Your willpower now has a clear target, an actionable one. It's no longer battling a monster. It's solving a puzzle. This habit is a linguistic discipline. It forces you to replace emotional language with factual language. It turns, "My partner is so selfish and never listens," into, "My partner did not acknowledge my point during our discussion tonight." The second statement doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it removes the global label, the label of selfish, which feels permanent, overwhelming. It points to a specific event. A discussable one. It creates a bridge to a solution instead of a wall of resentment. So here's a reflective prompt. a practical way to build this muscle. Think of one current worry, something buzzing in the back of your mind. Take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. Your challenge is to write one sentence. One single sentence that describes the situation with complete neutrality, almost clinical, no adjectives that judge, no predictions of doom, just the who, what, when, and where. If your sentence is, "I'm terrified I'll never find a job," the plain description might be, "I have submitted 15 applications this month and received 3 rejections so far." See the difference? The first sentence is a storm of emotion. You're trapped inside it. The second is a set of facts, something you can work with. It's data. And data empowers a clear mind. A clear mind is the command center for an iron will. Iron willpower isn't about moving mountains tomorrow. It's about lifting the stone right in front of you today. That's the 12th habit, focusing on the present task, the single point of effort. Your will is like a beam of light. If you scatter it across the past, all the regrets, and the future, all the fears, it becomes a weak glow. It doesn't illuminate anything, but if you focus it entirely on the one thing you're doing right now, it becomes a laser. It cuts through resistance. It gets things done, and in that doing, your willpower actually grows stronger. The Stoics knew this. They understood the present moment is the only place where action is even possible. The past is just memory. The future is imagination. Both are phantoms. Your real power, your only point of leverage is here, in the next breath, the next sentence, the next deliberate movement of your hand. Seneca wrote about this. He said we have a habit of exaggerating sorrow, or imagining it, or anticipating it. And that's where our suffering really lies, not in reality, but in the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. His advice was to tackle life piece by piece. Deal with a difficulty, he said, by not looking at its entirety. That's too daunting, but by looking at what can be borne right now, what can be done right now. This habit is the ultimate defense against feeling overwhelmed. A massive project isn't one massive thing. It's a sequence of small, present actions. Your will isn't asked to complete the whole project at once. It's only asked to begin the first step, and then the next. Think about writing a book, the totality of it, 80,000 words, the structure, the editing, the publishing, that can paralyze anyone. But a writer with a Stoic focus sits down and says, "My task isn't to write a book. My task is to write one paragraph. Just one. That's the stone in front of me. I'll lift it with my full attention, and when that's done, there will be another stone." This applies perfectly to anxiety. When you're gripped by a wave of worry about something coming up, your mind is lost in the future. It's creating vivid, frightening scenes of what could go wrong. Your will feels useless because it's trying to fight a ghost. The Stoic move is to pivot your attention to your physical reality. Right now, what is the one small, necessary thing within your control? It might be taking the next breath slowly, feeling your feet on the floor, drinking a glass of water. You're not solving the entire future problem. You're performing a single, sovereign act in the present. You're proving to yourself that you're still in command. Right here, right now, and this builds a momentum. Each completed present task is a small victory. It sends a signal to your nervous system. I am capable. I am effective. Your confidence compounds not from thinking about success, but from the accumulated evidence of these tiny, focused actions. So the question for right now, in this moment, is this: what is the one small, necessary thing within your control that you can do? It might be closing a distracting browser tab. It might be sending that one email you've put off. It might be standing up and stretching for 60 seconds. Don't let your mind race ahead to the next 10 things. Identify the one, and then, for the next few minutes, let your will pour into that single point of effort. You see how the mountain, bit by bit, becomes a path of stones. The Stoic secret to strength is thanking life for its hardest lessons. That's the 13th habit. It's that love of fate, but it goes further. It's an active search for the gift inside the grit. It's gratitude for challenges. The famous phrase is the obstacle is the way. The thing blocking your path isn't a detour, it is the path. It's the curriculum for your growth. When you learn to see it that way and to feel genuine thanks for it, you transform your relationship with difficulty. Your willpower stops being a shield against hardship. It becomes a tool to sculpt that hardship into something of value. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this constantly. He wrote about the people who annoyed him, the setbacks in his campaigns, his own frail health. He trained himself to see them as necessary opponents. He said the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was grateful for tough opponents because they revealed his own weaknesses. They gave him a chance to strengthen them. A comfortable life offers no such training. It lets your will grow soft, but a challenge met with gratitude becomes the whetstone. It sharpens your will to a fine edge. This reframing is a profound mental shift. It turns passive endurance into active, creative engagement. You're no longer just putting up with a problem. You're investigating it. You're asking what this situation is demanding of you that you haven't yet developed. Is it patience, better planning, clearer communication? Humility, the obstacle points directly to the virtue you need to cultivate. And in that moment of recognition, your frustration begins to melt into focus. Your energy redirects from complaining about the wall to learning how to climb it, or to build a door through it. Let's make this practical with a gratitude for grit journal entry. Tonight or right now, bring to mind one recent frustration, a technology failure that disrupted your workflow, a misunderstanding with a friend, a goal that seems perpetually out of reach. Now write down a sentence of thanks for it. Start with, I am grateful for this challenge because, and force yourself to complete it. It might feel unnatural at first. That's the point. You're building a new neural pathway. Then, list 2 or 3 specific things this difficulty is teaching you. For the technology failure, it might be teaching you adaptability. The importance of backups, patience with processes outside your control. For the misunderstanding, it might be teaching you the value of clear communication. The art of listening without defensiveness, the strength of a friendship that can withstand friction. So here is your reflective prompt, a direct way to apply this habit today. Identify one current obstacle in your life. It doesn't have to be monumental, a tight deadline, a difficult person, a skill you're struggling to learn. Now, on a piece of paper or just in your thoughts, list 3 potential gifts or strengths this obstacle is forcing you to develop. Is it forcing you to become more organized, more courageous in conversation, more creative with limited resources? By naming these hidden dividends, you perform an act of alchemy. You stop seeing a brick wall. You start seeing the raw materials for your own fortress. And with that vision, your will finds not just the strength to endure, but the purpose to prevail. The 14th habit is seeking silence, regular silence and solitude. It's not about running away, it's a return to your own will, to your own judgment. In the quiet, away from all the opinions and the notifications, you can finally hear your own voice, the one that knows what matters. That clarity is the foundation. Without it, your resolve gets diluted by every new input, every demand. Solitude for a Stoic isn't loneliness, it's the training ground. It's where you remember you are enough. That your peace, your purpose, they don't need an audience. Seneca wrote about this. In his letters, he described the necessity of withdrawing into himself. He said we have to take ourselves away from the crowd, become our own companions. Because how can you master your reactions to the world, he asked, if you never step away to examine them? He praised quiet retreats not as escapes but as maintenance, essential maintenance for a sound mind. In the stillness, the sediment of daily life settles. And you can see clearly again. Marcus Aurelius, even with the roar of empire and army, he constantly sought these moments of self-communion. His meditations are the product of that solitude. They're conversations he had with himself to remind himself of his principles, to recenter. He wrote that nowhere can a person find a more peaceful retreat than in his own soul. That inner sanctuary is always there, but you have to be quiet enough to enter it. So what does this look like now in a modern life? It's intentionally creating space for silence. A daily 10-minute sit without any device, no phone, no book, just you, a chair, your breath. It's a walk in nature without headphones, letting the wind, your own footsteps, be the only soundtrack. It could be a digital detox hour before bed, where the blue light and the endless scroll are replaced by a lamp, by the simple act of being present. In that silence, something happens. The mental chatter at first might get louder, that's normal, you're noticing it. But if you stay, if you just observe without engaging, it begins to settle. And beneath it, you often find a deeper current, a clarity about a decision you've been avoiding, a sudden insight, or just a profound sense of calm. That calm isn't passive, it's potent. It's the reset button for your willpower. It restores the energy that gets scattered by constant reaction. So here's a simple prompt. Schedule a short period of intentional silence today, 5 minutes, 10. It doesn't need to be profound or perfectly peaceful, just intentional. Sit quietly. Or walk quietly and observe. See what thoughts arise when you stop feeding the noise. What subtle feeling makes itself known. This isn't about achieving empty-mindedness. It's about reclaiming your inner space, and in that reclaimed space, your will finds its true strength, forged not in battle, but in the quiet certainty of your own company. When you don't know what to do, you can ask what the wisest version of you would choose. That's the final habit. The Stoics had a name for it. They called it modeling the sage. The sage wasn't a real person, it was an ideal, a perfect model of wisdom and virtue, a kind of compass, someone who always acts with reason, courage, justice, self-control. You can't become that perfect ideal, but you can use it as a reference. When you're confused or feeling weak, you step outside of your own emotional swirl. You ask a simple question, what would the sage do here? That question externalizes the standard. It cuts through your own bias, your fear, your pride. It gives your will a clear target, something objective to aim for. The Stoics used this method constantly. They had historical exemplars, people they admired for their character. Cato the Younger was a model of integrity for many. Epictetus told his students to keep Socrates or Zeno in mind when facing something difficult. He said to ask, what would Socrates or Zeno have done in this situation? The point wasn't to copy their exact actions, it was to channel their commitment to principle, to let their example lift your own judgment. Take a modern example. You're in a meeting, a colleague presents an idea you know has a serious flaw. Speaking up might create tension, might make you look difficult. Staying silent lets a bad plan move forward. Your personal bias might pull you toward silence, toward comfort. So you model the sage, you pause, you ask, what would a person of great courage and justice do here? The answer gets clearer. Courage would speak. Justice would want the best outcome for the project, not the easiest path. Your willpower now has a purpose beyond your own comfort. It's aligned with a higher standard. You might phrase your concern gently as a question, but you speak because the sage in that moment guides you to act with virtue. Or a smaller daily test. You're stuck in traffic, late for an appointment. Frustration is building. Your instinct is to honk, to curse the delay, to let the stress ruin the next hour. Now you consult your inner model. What would a person of profound patience and calm do? They would recognize the traffic is outside their control. They would use the unexpected time. Maybe to listen to something uplifting, or just to breathe and observe. They wouldn't add inner turmoil to an outer inconvenience. By asking the question, you create a gap. And in that gap, you can choose to act as if you already had that mastery of patience. That leads to a practical way to build this layer of willpower. Choose one virtue you want to strengthen. Say it's patience. For one full day, commit to acting as if you were a master of patience, a sage of patience. In every interaction, every delay, every minor irritation, you do a quick mental check. How would the patient version of me respond? You don't need to feel patient. You just need to act in alignment with the ideal. You hold the door a moment longer. You listen fully without interrupting. You take a deep breath when a plan changes. By the end of the day, you'll have collected evidence that you can choose the wiser path regardless of your initial feeling. Your will learns to follow the blueprint of virtue, not the weather of your emotions. So here's a reflective prompt, a way to carry all these habits forward. Tonight, choose one virtue: courage, temperance, kindness, wisdom. Tomorrow, for just that one day, live as if you were its master. Let that idealized version of you be the quiet guide for every decision, big and small. Watch what happens. You might find that the iron will you've been forging isn't something you need to find. It's something you become, one virtuous choice at a time. These 15 habits aren't just separate tips, they're a system. Each one supports the others. Together, they build that iron will by strengthening your internal governance, your ability to rule your own mind, to govern your reactions. That's the goal. Not harsh self-denial, but calm, rational self-command. A will that's strong because it's clear, because it's aligned with what's true. Marcus Aurelius had a final thought on this. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the whole promise in one sentence. The habits are the daily practice of that realization. They're how you come to know deeply that your power is in your judgments, your choices, your character. So where do you start? You don't master all 15 at once. That would scatter your focus. The Stoic way is to choose. Pick just one or two habits that resonate right now. Maybe the evening review for self-awareness. Or the deliberate pause to reclaim your reactions. Commit to practicing that one thing with gentle consistency, not for perfection, but for showing up. For trying, each small act of will repeated is a hammer strike on the hot iron of your character. It shapes you, it strengthens you.